no, I 100% am going to listen to the people back home who I represent in this House. And you should listen to the 40,000 people in your area and not the bureaucrats at Commerce, and not the lobbyists, and not the multi-billion-dollar international corporations.
Boom. Do you ever wonder why your elected representatives who claim that they're going to do a ton of stuff when they get into office, either in DC or in your state capital, once they get there, suddenly they become like they've been attacked by the pod people, and they end up doing things that are completely opposite of what they said they were going to do, and they no longer represent you anymore. They represent special interests, and then they try to tell you how great they are. You ever wonder why that happens? Because it seems to happen a lot. Well, there was a debate in the South Carolina State House that really shed some light on this whole thing. Adam Morgan is a Republican in South Carolina, and they were debating a issue that had to do with, I think, a development, rezoning, empowerment zones, all these big government ideas about how best to grow the economy in certain areas. But you see, it's always the government choosing the winners and losers. And then, of course, years later, you find out that some of these politicians and people who are part of the permanent bureaucracy, they end up benefiting directly from these new developments, right? They had a family member or a friend who happened to know a guy who was part of the construction company or the real estate company, or you know how these things go. And it's all legal. Why? Right? How is it legal? Because the actual lawmakers who decide what's legal and what's not legal, they give themselves loopholes on all these things. It happens all the time. And rarely do you see a state delegate like Adam Morgan engage in a conversation with a Democrat. Democrat's name, when you see him, is Todd Rutherford. Rarely do you see this kind of exchange happen in real time that shows it all in plain view. But boy, oh boy, does this not prove everything that we already know. Watch.
The pressure in here in Columbia is for me to not even vote red on the board. Y'all might not know this. A dark money entity that was created on Tuesday, the day after we voted for this, I went home and a attack piece went out in my whole district about the fact that I voted for this. I get that the people in Columbia, that the lobby wants me to either not vote or to vote green on this, but my constituents want me to vote red, and they want their tax money spent on core government functions, on their roads, on their schools. That's what they want their money spent on. So, they don't want us in here trying to play this government planning thing where we and our bureaus can figure out where the job should be, who should be employed, how much money should be allocated where in the private sector. It never works. It's socialism. It's never worked anywhere before. So what are we doing trying to do it here?
But would you consider the fact that South Carolina's track record on bringing major projects into this state has a winning record, and therefore, again, Commerce should be listened to rather than those people back in your district that may not have ever brokered a deal, may not understand what it means to being a project, may not understand economic incentives. So what you're suggesting is we should listen to the people back home in your district rather than the people at Commerce that have been successful at bringing these mega deals to South Carolina.
Mr. Rutherford, I don't think that you could have espoused a philosophy that disagrees more fundamentally than me. I completely disagree with you, and I think that you believe what you just said. But no, I 100% am going to listen to the people back home who I represent in this House, and you should listen to the 40,000 people in your area, and not the bureaucrats at Commerce, and not the lobbyists, and not the multi-billion-dollar international corporations. You should listen to your constituents like I am. So yes, I will always fall back on the common sense of the wonderful people from Taylor's and Greenville Eastside, far more than I will ever listen to unelected bureaucrats, other representatives in here who have been here for far too long and have maybe managed a whole lot of these deals, and far more than I will ever listen to any member out there.
Mr.
Boom. Boom. God bless Mr. Rutherford, the Democrat, for saying the quiet part out loud. Well, I mean, are you telling me that we should listen to the idiots in our district, the people that we're actually supposed to be representing? They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know anything about economic incentives. They're not as smart as the permanent bureaucracy in the Commerce Department who's recommending we do this. Come on. Those idiots, all they're good for is voting for us. Period. That's the only usefulness they bring to the table. What kind of moron are you that you're actually going to, what's the word, represent the people who voted for you and sent you here? I mean, that's beautiful. And actually, again, sadly, this issue is happening all across the country in our houses of representation, but it's never actually talked about out loud. Very rarely do you have an Adam Morgan step up and say, my God, the hell are we doing here, people? Well, more money is to be made. So what? The people of my district don't want it. And here's the thing. He's 100% right that they'll spend money on this economic growth and the tax breaks and the incentives and the corporate, and they'll be able to play. They'll say, well, look, we built this mall and look at all the commerce and look at the jobs and look at all the good things. Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Good for you. And as you're driving to get to that job or you're driving to get to the mall to spend money on overpriced crap that you don't need, your road is full of potholes. And you might get carjacked on the way, or you might have an accident and you need to call an ambulance, or you might get mugged at the mall and you need a police officer, and there's just not enough resources for that sort of thing. We can't fix the roads. We can't hire more cops. We can't hire more ambulances and emergency workers to care for you if you've got a problem. No, because we give all the tax incentives so that we can build them all so that the economy can grow. I mean, that's literally what happens. Keeg 79, his name is Adam Morgan. He is a state representative down in South Carolina, although I think he's got a bid for Congress right now. And Boomer Sooner, by the way. I'm married to a Boomer. I'm married to a Sooner. Yeah, it's a beautiful smoking gun moment. And it made to order. It's like it was scripted. Seriously. The fact. And the other aspect of this, it's great that Adam Morgan is there and he had the perfect response and it was a great delivery and I loved it. And there's a reason why this video is going viral right now. But what Rutherford did there, I just said it was like scripted. He delivered a statement. I want to play him again because honestly, he's the most important part of this. I want to play him again because if you wanted to write dialogue of an out of touch, almost evil elected official who has nothing but contempt and disdain for the moronic idiot yokels who live in their districts that are just used up like, wasted tissue paper to send you so that you can wear your fancy suits and do important things in your state legislation, state house of legislature. This guy is made to order, like from Hollywood. And what he said here, it's the most informative part of the whole thing, beyond the pushback from Representative Morgan. Watch.
Would you consider the fact that South Carolina's track record on bringing major projects into this state has a winning record, and therefore, again, commerce should be listened to rather than those people back in your district that may not have ever brokered a deal, may not understand what it means of being a project, may not understand economic incentives. So what you're suggesting is we should listen to the people back home in your district rather than the people at Commerce that have been successful at bringing these mega deals to South Carolina.
Yes, that's exactly what we're suggesting. You elitist scum. Yes. It is a constitutional republic, and we make decisions through elected representatives. And what does a representative do? Represent the people, the interests, and the ideas of the people who put them into office. And this is a plague, not just in South Carolina, not just in other states in this country, and certainly not just in Washington, D.C., but even over in Ireland, they're feeling that. Watch this. This is just a salty old guy who likes to go to his pub with his very thick Irish brogue. This is a special video that we want to share right before St. Patrick's Day because the good people of the Emerald Isle, my ancestors, there's lots of O'Connors there, although not as many as you'd think. O'Connor's not nearly as popular an Irish name in Ireland as it is here in America. They are dealing with the exact same thing. And watch this man stand up at his local pub at a town meeting and express exactly the same sentiment about how he and his family and his community are no longer being represented. And the people in his parliament care more about brand new foreigners who have come into this country than the actual people who live in his town.
Local person that owns it. Property has been sold over and over again. And this man here, who's a reporter with News Talk and the local media, he cannot find out, and the local auctioneer here cannot find out who is the registered owner of that property. There was an advertisement put in the papers some time ago asking for expressions of interest for people who would be prepared to do what's coming up now. I'm totally opposed to those houses going up. They're not houses. They're costing 144,000 being manufactured somewhere else. Since we opened up in 2017, we have got no return at all. Most of the food and the services that are brought into the Iraq Centre and every place else is from outside, as far as Mullingar. So we have got no benefit in this town at all, despite the fact that we have probably 600 or 700 non-Irish people living in the town. They are welcome to the town, but we have got nothing in return. We have no employment. The meat factory we had was knocked down, and it's just gone back to agricultural land again. Nobody speaks on our behalf. We have no government representative in Ballaghaderreen. The TDs that we have in this county are not government TDs. So what more can you expect to be just more and more dumped on top of us? So enough is enough here tonight. And I hope that if there is a committee formed, that the first thing will be to stop these 47 houses. Now, the county managers had been directed from the government, some agency in the government, to ascertain where could they put 600 and something refugees, Ukrainian refugees. And it is Ukrainian refugees we'll be getting in those houses up there. I'm an elderly person, I'm 80 years of age, and I meet every day elderly people who are looking for houses and they cannot get them. There are people beside me here that have been turned down over and over again. We must look after our own people. And it's about time we look after our home.
When a representative government stops representing the people who empower the government, it doesn't end well. And you see this tide now worldwide in these countries that have governments very similar to ours, many of them modeled off of ours. You see this happening more and more and more, where a few people at the top are deciding certain things that the people don't actually want, but the people at the top are saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about. We know what's good for you. We know what's best. Shut your mouth, keep paying your taxes, or we'll throw you in jail, and leave the tough decisions to us, your betters. This doesn't end well. How do I know? Remember that old meme from a year ago, how men daily think about the Holy Roman Empire, or ancient Rome? It's kind of true. We can learn a lot by looking at ancient Rome. You think things are okay when you've just got a few people at the top who are making decisions, and you sell the populace on the idea that you've got some form of republic, you've got some form of representation, you've got your Senate. Hey, the senators are there. They're there making decisions for you. What more do you want, citizens? The Senate's fine. Yeah. You think that ends well? Open up a book and read about Rome.